I'm not calling it a bear market, I'm calling it a barter market. Well, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to Kitchen Table TCG. My name is Louie. I hope you're having yourself a fantastic day. Today, we are going to talk about the current market climate for TCGs in general. Particularly on my channel, I talk a lot about Flesh and Blood and about Metazoo. This will be predominantly focused around that, but I do think that some of the other stuff is applicable to some of the things that are happening in the Magic the Gathering and Pokemon markets as well. This is a weird, I feel like we're just in this weird limbo right now. Prices have been pretty relatively stable after a pretty sharp decline over the last 6 months. But now we're kind of getting into this weird market phase of like, all right, prices are back to where they were. Where are we going? Particularly Flesh and Blood prices are back to where they were before the big print run announcement. For Metazoo, Cryptid Nation first edition boxes and Kickstarter boxes hit the like 1K and 10K price points, and then they cooled down a little bit to like the $800 to $900 to $8,000 to $9,000 price point. So they've cooled down a little bit, and then we've seen some additional supply come to the market. And so this is what I have been witnessing. And I wanted to share a different perspective on this other than like, hey, we're in a bear market, right? Like, I do think that this over the next 6 months is going to be an interesting time, particularly, you know, Flesh and Blood. We're having one new set in June, and we have this other product that's coming out that we don't know much about yet in April. So the hype cycles are just going to be a little bit slower. Metazoo has a lot of products coming out, has a lot of things coming out, a lot of money going in and being tied up in that world. So what I am observing is not a lack of interest in the products, not a lack of interest in the Flesh and Blood stuff, not a lack of interest in the Metazoo stuff, but more of a lack of capital to spend on these things. And so what that turns this into is more of a barter market, where you see a lot of people looking to barter and trade rather than a lot of people looking to spend actual cash on things. It's been really interesting. I've seen a lot of vintage Pokemon and vintage Magic the Gathering entering these scenes over the last couple months, where people have this high value Magic the Gathering items and they're looking for basically taking it and putting it into more of these new card games where they get a wider spread and a better chance of growth, or maybe a more risky, more risk reward side of growth. And I think that's what's happening. I think you're seeing a lot of that. You know, I think there's been a couple posts for cold foils and people taking and trading Magic the Gathering cards, or even trading like Metazoo for Flesh and Blood, or even the opposite on the Metazoo side. You see people trading Flesh and Blood for Metazoo. You just see a lot more people trading than you see people buying. And in this ecosystem, the booster box is king. The booster box is essentially cash as a result of all these box breakers and people who are doing whatnot, and Facebook box openings and all these things. So you have this world where kind of like in this barter system, a booster box kind of represents cash. And not that there's a ton of influx of cash into the booster boxes, but the people in the system look at booster boxes and they can put a price on a booster box much more easily than they can put a price on some sort of maybe it's a cold foil or it's a graded card or whatever. It's a little bit harder to price. So this is just a dynamic and a market shift that we are witnessing, I think, right now. And then you also have, I think, another reason for this is all these new games, the Kickstarter games, the other new games that are coming out that look really, really fun and that people want to enjoy and hop in on, but that those cost money. Those cost cash. So people freeing up cash for their Kickstarter pledges, or freeing up cash, I have a bundle coming up in a couple weeks. Like, people freeing up cash for these different avenues, so they don't have the cash flow for the other games, the more wider spread stuff. So I think that that's a little bit of what's going on in the market. That's just my opinion. Here's some advice to you. Here's some living in that market. Here's some things that I would urge you to consider before you make any rash decisions. Number one, don't panic on prices. Be patient and don't panic on prices. Just because it appears that the market is going down, that doesn't mean that it's not going to stop. And eventually people will start putting cash and infusing cash back in the market. These are ebbs and flows. Things go up and they go down, and that's just the way that this all is. And right now we're just coming off of a brand new Flesh and Blood release. We're just getting ready for a brand new Metazoo release. And I think a lot of the wallet fatigue is setting in for both of those games. So don't panic on prices. Be patient. If you are somebody that holds product and has a bunch of sealed stuff, maybe drip out a couple boxes here and there if you need the capital, if you need to sell things. But I wouldn't get panicked all of a sudden and be like, oh my gosh, everyone's selling. I'm gonna drop everything. Here's all my boxes at 50%. I would not encourage you to do that. I would encourage you to be very, very cautious because markets can turn and shift pretty radically fast. And then the second thing is, don't expect to buy back in at these current prices. All these games that I cover on my channel are so tiny and so small that it wouldn't take much. It wouldn't take many people hopping into the world. You could buy out a vast number of any of these products on eBay, on TCG Player, with somebody who is wealthy, but not like me, somebody who's wealthy, who had real money, could come in and sweep up and buy out a considerable amount of the product. So if you do end up selling, don't expect that you're going to be able to buy back in lower or buy back in at the same price, especially if you're trading things. If you're like, hey, I'm gonna leverage this and trade it, and then when I sell and flip this thing, I'm gonna get back in and buy that booster box that I just traded. I think that is a really dangerous game to be playing. I would very much consider looking at your product as cash, and once you spend the cash, you're not getting that cash back, right? You're not going to try to go reinvest in that cash. I would consider it as cash in this barter system. And then the other thing, I think, as you move through here, is to make sure that you have good reference posts. Make sure you have good organization of your product. Make sure you have a good way to share that you have good references and that you've done your homework and that you've done transactions. And then trust people. And if they do have good transactions, be willing to trust them and trade them and do all that thing. And this is where those reference pages really come into handy, because you do need references in order to interact in a barter market. This is not just a cash transaction anymore. This is a trade transaction. So you will need references. So I'd vastly encourage you to go and build those references, go and put together those things on Discord. There's for our server anyway, there's a place where you can go and track your trades. On Facebook, there's all these marketplace groups. Make sure that you're doing your homework so that in this barter system, you're able to get the things you want with the trust that you have if you are doing that. Anyway, I just think we're just in this little lull right now, and it's okay. It's good. The free tendies time appears to be over for all TCGs right now. The free tendies appear to be over, and now people are taking their tendies and they're moving them around to things that they actually want, things that they actually want to hold on to, things that actually bring them joy. And I do think that people are getting excited for these newer games that are coming out, and this kind of, I do think we are in this world. I remember in 2010, 2012, the board game market, I have all these board games over there as a result. Are they over there? Yeah, all these board games over there as a result. Where this board game world, just all the time there were these new board games, and people just wanted to try them out. I had a board game group, and all the time we would just show up with new games, and every week we would try out something new and fun. I think the world is shifting a little bit, and these trading card games are turning into this opportunity for you and your play group, you and your commander group, to play a game of Commander and then hang out and try out a new TCG and just experience it and have some fun with it and learn. Not necessarily be playing for the next 10 years and not necessarily investing in the idea that this TCG is going to be the next Magic the Gathering, but playing it and enjoying the product that somebody has put together and built in a way that they love it enough that they they quit their job to create a TCG or whatever. So I do think that that's kind of what's going on in the market too. There's all these new games that people are excited about. People want to learn, people want to interact with, and yeah, anyway. Hope you have yourself a fantastic day. Let me know what you think about this new barter market that's going on. And remember to be kind to the people around you, and good luck with your trades out there.